Initially, RSS was completely a male domain.
So it's still a male thing.
Yeah,
No woman is allowed into the apex body of the Sangh Parivar. RSS Women's Front, the Rashtra Sevika Samiti, developed or was allowed to come up after some initial resistance from the leadership, RSS leadership. So it kind of replicated the patriarchal family with the topmost echelons of decision making in male hands. All of them would always say that the primary task of the woman is to look after the family, bring up children, maintain domestic harmony.
Okay.
She must never ask for divorce. She must not actually go against the wishes of the family. In a sense, they have given a certain amount of political prominence to women in the BJP, which may even exceed the visibility of women in other parties.
Women having also evolved par excellence as communicators and instigators of hate violence.
I think it gives them a leadership position, and they are doing it for strategic reasons, because the sadhvis, being sadhvis, their voice carries double the weight any other political leader's words would carry. On all questions of social justice, they have nothing to give. They will not oppose the anti-dowry laws or the anti-rape laws, but they might actually give rapists a lot of impunity if they are the right sorts of rapists.
Salam, Namaste, Zindabad. I welcome, I'm Harsh Mander. I welcome you to one more episode of the second season of the podcast series Partitions of the Heart that we in Karwane Mohabbat are doing with Himal, Southasian. In this season, we're talking about and trying to understand 100 years of the RSS, many aspects of their ideology of Hindutva and their practice. I'm extremely privileged today to have one of our most thoughtful and eloquent historians, feminist historian, Dr. Tanika Sarkar. Tanika was, till recently, was teaching history in the Center for
Historical Studies
in Jawaharlal Nehru University, and she's now teaching the foundational history course on Indian civilization, I think, in Ashoka University. So thank you so much. And Tanika has written, researched on the role of the RSS, on women in the RSS, but also RSS schools, the understanding of history, and that's some of the things that we'll talk about today. Tanika, thank you for being here.
It's a privilege to be here.
So Tanika, firstly, I think Hindutva has an ideological frame in which they understand social realities and have their own perspective on it. Where do women fit into the worldview of the RSS? Are they confined to the domestic sphere? Are they acknowledged to have some agency? Is the agency independent of the ideology of the RSS? Is it to advance the ideology of the RSS?
In some sense, they have the advantage that they do not go against the grain of patriarchal understanding of women, which is universal in our society, among all communities, even among all political parties, I would say. In a sense, they have given a certain amount of political prominence to women in the BJP, which may even exceed the visibility of women in other parties occasionally. I mean, Indira Gandhi we had as Prime Minister and so on, but certainly more than the left parties have given so far. But so it's not that they are averse to giving women prominent public roles. When the situation demands, especially after they joined the electoral arena, they had to. Yes.
It hasn't always been that way.
No, no, no.
So let's start in 1925.
Okay, so strangely, the RSS Women's Front, the Rashtra Sevika Samiti, developed or was allowed to come up after some initial resistance from the leadership, RSS leadership. They finally allowed it to come up.
But how many years later?
Within a couple of years. Lakshmi Bai Kelkar, the founder of the Samiti, went a couple of times to the leadership to ask for entry of women into the RSS itself. That was never granted, but she was then allowed to develop a women's branch. And she explains it as something she felt was very urgent because she saw a Hindu woman being molested by a gunda. And I asked Samiti members if the gunda happened to be a Muslim. They said no, a gunda. And she realized that the woman's husband was there and he could not protect her. And she then thought that the woman has to protect herself. So she developed this Shakha Samiti, which ran on absolutely parallel lines as the RSS does. One session for physical and combat training and one session for Bauddhic or ideological training, and both more or less doing the same things.
So if you
that is 1936. That is just after the Congress develops its All India Women's AIWC.
I'm a little confused still. You said in a couple of years she developed it, but then you're talking about 1936.
Oh no, she wasn't asking for it from 1925.
Okay, she started asking for it much later.
Much later, yes.
So till then, initially RSS was completely a male domain.
So it's still a male thing. No
women.
woman is allowed into the apex body of the Sangh Parivar. But it is all male.
But suppose you would imagine in the late 1930s, a women's RSS Shakha and a men's RSS Shakha. How would they be different, except for the sex of the members?
Format was very similar.
Okay.
Purpose was absolutely identical.
Okay.
But they, when I went there in 1990, first time, they were very keen to assert their independence.
From the male?
From the male. We belong to the same family, but our organization runs on its own. We do not take orders from them. But that is possibly, what they would like to imagine, but they are very much a part of the family. So it kind of replicated the patriarchal family with the topmost echelons of decision making in male hands.
Right.
But women allowed a space which is their own and where they have more or less, they look after themselves.
So when I compare with Nazi Germany, it was interesting that women were seen primarily as responsible for producing
kitchen and children.
So they'd be stay-at-home mothers who actually nurture Nazi men. Was that the same in the RSS, or was there a little more agency?
There was far more agency, but they would always, all of them would always say that the primary task of the woman is to look after the family, bring up children, maintain domestic harmony. If domestic discord happens, then it is the woman is to blame.
Okay.
She must never ask for divorce. She must not actually go against the wishes of the family. Now, you can understand that the first members came from RSS families. So they were thinking really in family terms.
Okay.
They knew that the family would be supportive of their views and they would support the family's views, mutually sustaining. So, so that's what, but the physical training was something that was different. To build up strong bodies for would-be mothers or mothers to bear strong children. But also, gradually, they began to be trained for going out, negotiating public roads and places on their own. And the Samiti training helped. And they were as steeped in RSS ideology as the RSS itself.
Yeah. So the hatred of Muslims and Christians remained at the center
of the discourse.
Because I was reading Akar, quite interestingly, he was talking about Hindutva, and he said something. He said that he feels that RSS doesn't have an ideology, because an ideology is a comprehensive worldview. I mean, in the RSS, you can be for markets and against markets, for welfare, against welfare. You can be, for corporate development, for all of that can be accommodated. It is primarily an organization built around a notion of the othering of the Muslim and hatred towards it. Would you agree that that is how?
That is the primary aim. But if we talk about Nazi ideology, and we do,
yes,
fascist ideology, then we can, I think, talk about a communal ideology. With the difference that the Nazis call themselves Nazis, fascists call themselves fascists, they won't call themselves communal.
Yeah.
They somehow step aside from that naming. But I would add two more things.
Right.
They may be for social welfare. Some of them might be working in those areas. And the RSS has many areas, many fronts, as you know. But they would never question the foundations of social power, be it caste, be it gender, be it class. They would not like to shake the the tree that, say, capitalist society with a feudal mindset embodies. For example, Savarkar onwards, they would do some sort of softening of caste. Golwalkar especially, so this is where they are different from women, just domesticated women. And they are not just domesticated women giving primacy to the family and yet developing their physical strength and listening to, what the gurus are saying. It's a bit different because even domesticity was politicized. And the ordinary duties of the woman, so to speak, bringing up a child, that was given a political mission. That you have to bring up the child, the infant, in such a way that he becomes an aggressive, confident, dedicated member of the Hindu Rashtra. He knows his enemies,
so he
knows his sanskaras.
Duty. That is your primary duty.
That is one of your primary duties. But Golwalkar added extremely cleverly, and mind you, Golwalkar keenly followed what the Christian missionaries were doing. And he also followed what the
Nazis were
doing. That of course, more than anything else. But he also followed what the communists were doing. For example, when we were interviewing them, they would, give analogies from CPM or CPI practices all the time. But they would also even follow Nakshal practices, and admiringly.
In what way?
Follow money, pursue,
could you give an example?
That look at their dedication, look at their fearlessness. This is how you should be. Look at the Christian missionaries. They work among all sorts of people that they were not born into, and you have to do it. Things like that they would say. He would tell the women, invite the poor women in your neighborhood. I know you can't go out, but you call them at home and educate them, give them literacy, and slowly introduce Hindu sanskaras to them, by which he meant the whole
Hindutva Sarkar,
RSS.
the Hindutva Sanskar.
Be very kind, especially focus on the Dalit women in the area. Invite them to family celebrations, make a point of touching them as much as possible, as often as possible. If the maid's child is crying, tell the maid to go tend the child before, she carries on the work for you. At the same time, no questioning of caste. So softening of caste, make it gentle and wear a human face, but do not question, do not try to shake it up. And they would never take any part in anti-caste movements, struggles, demonstrations, nor would they protest against atrocities against Dalits. And this kind of dual attitude is very well brought out in Meghvangshi's book. Meghvangshi, that he would be educated, he would be given help with his hostel seat, he would be invited, made to feel like a part of the family. But when his family invited them, they threw out his food, the food. So then he realized that they are as much castes as anyone else. So that was a way of making the domestic space political.
The fact that subaltern groups, the Dalit and the Adivasi, have such strong, have grown into a very powerful support constituency. It seems a paradox, an obvious paradox, and even for women, that you are never going to get equality. The question doesn't arise. And yet, the RSS in many ways, and for the Dalit Adivasi even more clearly, stands for, for the big corporate who is taking over the Adivasi lands, and so on. They strongly opposed Gandhiji's temple entry movement. They were passionate against, of course, the much more radical challenge to caste that Ambedkar played. And yet, you're drawing them in, and I think it's a very skillful negotiation. Likewise, women are entrenched deeply into patriarchy, and yet get a sense of. So I have a feeling that what they did, and how would you react to that, is they offered belonging, but not equality.
That's a very
would you agree with that?
way of putting it.
Yes.
Not just belonging, but they reserve the sphere of hate for
the outsider, the other.
Hatred of the other or others, where you can get equality, where you have as important a role, maybe not in the same way, maybe not in physical violence, but spreading rumors.
So as a hate warrior, you're an equal partner.
For the Adivasi, for the Dalit, for the woman.
I think that's a very profound way of thinking about it, and it's really complex.
It is very complex. It's like a Sanskritization process.
Yeah, but
you emulate upper caste norms, and
you have somebody else to crush. And especially in the last, since the Babri Masjid, in the last 11, 12 years, I see a process happening to India's Muslims, which I would call the Dalitization of the Indian Muslim. I mean, the Indian Muslim is being reduced, in a sense, into the lowest caste, below the Dalits. And, first, of course, if you go away, we're happiest. But if you have to live, then you have to live separately. We have to have no interaction. You have to be submissive. You have to be submerged. You have to, we don't want to hear your worship. We don't want to sort of see. It's exactly how we, our society has treated Dalits for centuries. In a very compressed time, I think they're doing that to the Dalits, to the Muslims, and the Dalit is above them. Do you agree with that? With that evaluation? I mean,
yes, but that is their form of action, but the discourse is different because the Dalit has to be seen has to be represented as an equal partner in the Hindu community. You can't imagine a Hindu community without the Dalits. And we know that the RSS came up at a time when the anti-caste movements, whether it's Swami Achyutanand or the Adidharam movement or Periyar or Ambedkar, they were really very powerful in a lot of places in India. And that was very important then to...
So they had to give an illusion of acceptance.
Of unity, of sameness, of... Also, as Savarkar said with admirable frankness, that for a community to be a nation, for a people to be a community, and for a community to be a nation, you need the enemy. And he said hatred divides, but it also unites.
Yes.
So the Hindu nation has to be founded on hatred, on the enemy figure.
And that's why even the subaltern, whether she's the woman or the Dalit or the Adivasi, becomes a partner because you're jointly fighting the hated other, the constructed hated other. I think that to understand.
So there's a double speak there. You might just allow the upper caste to do what they like to the Dalits with impunity. But you would not say it in public discourse. They are us, we are them. They are the others, the Muslims are the others.
Tanika, just holding on to that a little bit, reading Akshay Mukul's Gita Press account, I was struck, I got educated by it, saying that the original hostility to Gandhiji of the RSS was not vis-a-vis his acceptance as equal citizens of the Muslim. It was the temple entry movement, which was what most broke their, it was appalling to them to the idea that Dalits would enter. So I'm saying that it's this very complicated space where they'll never give them equality, but
and resist it.
At a very fundamental level, they cannot give up patriarchy, they cannot give up caste, and yet they want them
as part of
as partners, and they've negotiated this very complex space.
Because their whole point is Hindu society is one, and it is threatened by this and that.
It's one but unequal.
Unequal, but that they won't say. They won't say in their public discourse.
Right. But
we respect our women. We have always respected the Adivasis. We share everything. All
so
that.
Can I request you just to again, firstly, wearing a feminist lens. Women in the RSS organizations talk of them and think of themselves as empowered. And the fact that they can wield a lathi and a dagger, the fact they can spout hatred, etc., and the fact that they can step out of their homes and have a role outside their homes gives them a sense of empowerment. But in what ways, as a feminist, would you say it stops short of a truly feminist emancipation?
As I said, the women themselves have been trained and socialized into accepting male leadership in the family,
and male leadership in the
separate spheres, equal, separate but equal, and parental discipline. That is absolutely crucial. And here caste comes in without uttering the word caste, because endogamy, whether it's intercaste marriage or romance or interfaith relationships, you cannot go against the wishes of your parents. So, whereas for the Muslims, interfaith marriage or relationships, they have this whole image of love jihad and the whole conspiracy theory with endless ramifications, the whole bizarre arithmetic of they are 5 and they have 25 and all that. But about, sorry, I lost the thread. So they would have that about.
But with the Dalit, How is it different from the love jihad idea?
There they would not say that the Dalits are stealing our women, that they have designs on them, that they are savages and you cannot let your women go there. They would say that it is very wrong to go against the parents' decisions. You have to defer to the parents. And here I would say it's not just patriarchy, because by stifling love, romance, by stifling the free will and free choice in love, you are actually making the son and the daughter equally docile. And as they learn to accept the parents' discipline and the parents' commands, so they go out into the broader society, they see the police and the magistrate upholding the parental discipline and the state upholding as a, same message. So they become docile citizens of Hindu Rashtra. The training begins at home.
So from a feminist perspective, that is one critique. Is there anything else that you would?
Well, I have unfortunately seen people who are very feminist and genuinely feminist and heartfelt anger about patriarchal power and all that, but who are also very communal.
Okay.
So, but I would say in real terms, feminism cannot accommodate communalism.
Absolutely,
So, just, the two are just not compatible at all.
So your other critique, one is that this absence of agency in terms of choice of your partner, the agency of...
Even, if you want to study further, if you don't want to marry, if you want to defer marriage, you don't want to marry early. And I actually came across a lot of young people in Samiti Sakhas who were complaining about this. But the parents will tell them to marry. I have found a good groom for you. And they would be most unwilling, but they would have to do it. And that is that.
So it is that obedience.
Obedience to the parents' will, whether it's education, whether it's jobs, whether it's... So quite a few of them escape marriage by becoming totally involved with communal hate campaigns. Then the parents find it a little difficult. And you have seen that film, Nisha Paheja's film. That girl obviously has a revulsion
the world
before her. And she finds the idea, she says, I find the idea of marriage repulsive. But she cannot disobey her parents. So she throws herself heart and soul into the movement, into hate campaigns. And that becomes the Samiti or the VHP, Durga Vahini, becomes, the anger, the hatred, perhaps comes out of certain domestic frustrations, that aspirations blocked, movements monitored, checked. You know that except for this political work, you can't have a life of your own.
So that becomes... So the anger is also...
And she says that I have so much anger. And the interviewer says, is the anger against your father? Because he was very brutal. The father's very brutal. No, but I don't know why I have it. And that comes out against the Muslim.
So Tanika, we talked... I was asking you to look at Hindutva, the place of women in the Hindutva project from a feminist lens. I wanted to also talk about a couple of more comparisons. One was with the Congress, the Congress under Gandhi in the freedom struggle, because one of the things that he is greatly, people acknowledge that one of his great contributions was to bring women out of their homes as an integral and important part of the freedom struggle. So how would you compare what the RSS did with what Gandhiji did in terms of women in struggle?
Initially, actually, Gandhi would not allow women to enter the Ralat Satyagraha.
Okay.
Non-cooperation, I think women just pushed themselves into the movement, and Gandhi then opened up every possible...
Salt Satyagraha was very much with women.
Absolutely, women leading practically. in all sorts of capacities, and that was the feature, the striking feature of Gandhian movements, that all the movements that he led, that women's sphere, political sphere, and men's political sphere were not separated. They all did the same things together. But a big difference, of course, is that Gandhi asked women to put up, men and women, to put up with violence without retaliation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the RSS
Yeah.
advises
Violence.
not even retaliation, but seize the
Violence is at
initiative.
the center of it. But also, I think women had much more decision-making roles, on par with men, or almost on par with men, in the Gandhian process. You talked about the left, and in many ways, I too admire the left, and I see its limitations. But women in leadership in the left, you had said in passing, is actually much less than in the RSS. How would we understand that?
The left delayed opening up a separate women's front till 1956.
Okay.
Before that, leftist women worked with the Congress.
Okay.
Or they had a kind of pretty open, inclusive Mahila Atma Raksha Samiti during the famine and the World War. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, they kept out of it. They helped the men, gave them shelter, hid them when the party went underground, etc. But in a sense, they were kept in their place. And on Telangana movement, there's a lot of work on these lines, that they would be pulled out, Adivasi women would be pulled out of their homes when there was an armed struggle going on. And after the struggle's over, go back to your kitchen. Politics is not for you. So I would say that even though the discourse was
much more progressive,
couldn't be more progressive. In fact, love marriages became a part of leftist experience. Communes where, the family life was not given at all that kind of importance, centrality. And in the communes, all families lived together, worked together. But on the whole, women were kept in their place. Now, it could be because the left has been more frank, or the leftist women have written a lot about it, and leftist leaders like Sundaraya accepted their criticism later, which the RSS women never articulated. If they had any problems, they would keep it to themselves. In that sense, they were far more docile women and never criticized the menfolk. The power of the RSS lies in the fact that whether they are in power or out of power, they would work relentlessly.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big lessons that will keep coming through this discussion, that they have worked for 100 years to get where they are.
And they have worked totally tirelessly.
Yes, tirelessly, often with a large proportion of them without any kind of personal ambition and so on. So there is that. But for a project of hate. So that's
project of hate. Mixed up with a little bit of welfare and charity. Charity, I would say, rather than welfare.
So that's the next thing that I really wanted to, again, just to understand. A lot of people in other conversations, but also in the context of women and Dalits and Adivasis, say that the RSS has gained strength because of its service activities, its schools, its hospitals, etc. And these are seen, often favorably in comparison with Christian missionary services. I've served, in deep forested areas, in rural parts of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, where actually there's been an enormous history of the Christian missionary. And I found this is, so I'm just putting out for you, would you agree or disagree? I feel that the sense of service that I see among Christian missionaries, and I'm sticking my neck out and saying it, is far more far less utilitarian and far more for the sake of service itself. Whereas everything that the RSS does in service, I see, is extremely utilitarian. You're doing it because you want to advance. Your core project remains the hate project.
It's strategic.
It's a strategic, utilitarian service delivery, and to call it service in itself, I hesitate. Whereas I would call a lot of Christian missionary work, for instance, service. What says CMC Vellore is done for people with leprosy is incomparable with anything that I've seen done by the Sangha organizations. This is I think I'm sticking my neck out because the discourse is the opposite. That the Christian missionary are these very devious sort of people who are. So how would you have any sense of agreement with when I'm comparing the kind of service that these two organizations have done?
I would agree. I know very little about firsthand about the kind of work, the way they work with subaltern people, and you would know much more, and I'm happy to hear that, because the Christian missionaries, apart from Bible classes and conversion efforts, they have, and service, they have also taken part historically in many emancipatory movements, like the rebellion against indigo planters. A missionary went to jail for translating a play that exposed the
condition,
the conditions, Neel Darpan, the Blue Mutiny. And then they took a very active part in agrarian reform projects. And actually the left sort of came to power by agrarian reform and restructuring, giving tenant status to the sharecropper. And that was first suggested by an Australian missionary, much earlier. The Congress did not accept it. The Bengal Congress was very conservative in class terms. They did that. They worked very hard to campaign against widow burning. And they actually, it's quite interesting that I found that they were actually saying that, look, Hindu Shastra does not recommend this. So why do this? Not all Shastras are united on this. They did not say that, look how savage the Hindus are. But, it's not in their religion, so to speak. So they did a slavery abolition, for example. They also, in the South particularly, educated the erstwhile slave caste so that they could get some jobs, they could save something, go into business.
They could enter a school.
Fule, Scottish Missionary School, and so on. So that is a big contribution, which nothing like that happened with,
The Ekal Vidyalaya doesn't have, at least, you don't have that lifting of the soul when you see that work. I've done a lot of work with leprosy. And there I used to, in the districts I worked with, and there the only partner I'd always find is the Christian missionary, and who would be willing to work with them, with a community that was so savagely stigmatized by everybody else.
So very happy to hear that. And Grimstains, although he wasn't quite a missionary, but
I'm talking missionaries in the broadest sense. I mean, Christian workers, social workers, if you like Graham Staines. And of course, our radical Stan Swami,
Yes, of course. Father Cedric,
Prakash. So, so it is a different tradition, and I feel that we need to nuance when we say that the RSS has succeeded because of its welfare services. I feel we need to caveat that a lot, because it is a kind of, it's a very utilitarian service. I mean, you work with the Dalits because you have to draw them into the larger ideological project against Muslims, but you're not working with Dalits because you don't believe, you believe that untouchability and caste is wrong. So they're two very different kinds of
I'm
engagement.
glad you say that, because our secularists, I think, because of the presence of imperialism and because the missionaries and the colonial state officials were of the same, skin color, they do not feel the same way about the anti-Christian crusades of the RSS. The way they respond to the anti-Muslim campaigns. They think that their missionaries are, conversion should not be at all encouraged.
So the RSS, I mean, I think this is something that we need to acknowledge, has advanced not just because of the work of the RSS, but because of sympathies to the RSS among many sectors of
which you would never associate
of the bureaucracy. But for me, the most profound is the Gandhian institutions. I mean, almost every Gandhian institution today leans towards the RSS.
And Savarkar's discourse against Buddhism, because Savarkar is very bitter about Buddha emasculating Hindus and
Gandhi, they hated Gandhi for the same reason. They said he was feminine and he was weakening.
Exactly. And they have such anger about that, I should mention. They have such anger against even the bhakti movements.
Okay.
They are feminine, they are erotic, they are, they worship God as a child, whereas, we are the saviors of God, the presumption of it, that for the first time we will restore his
it's often said to me by people from this ideology, and they say that your talk of love and non-violence and so on is very feminine. And I'm saying I'm really proud to be feminine.
Yes.
So
they that's what harmed us. And whenever they say things about Buddhism, I think they mean Gandhi.
Of course they mean Gandhi. Of course they mean Gandhi.
That is the biggest problem. And if nonviolence had not worked to that extent, that darshana, salt rid, and other things, then they would not have minded that, because everything in their discourse stands or falls on the question of violence.
Now, that brings me to one other very central question, and I'm mindful of the hour. Is women as having also evolved par excellence as communicators and instigators of hate violence? This year, and some things, you simply cannot bear. One of them was India's third highest civilian award, the Padma Bhushan, being given to Sadhvi Ritambara. And it was also deeply personal to me, because I used to, during the Babri Masjid time, I was a district collector, and I used to always sit in the front of my car with the driver. My driver was Muslim, and we would be passing through every marketplace, every crossroads, and glaring would be Sadhvi Ritambara's speeches and that cassette, that famous one. And each time she would be saying something so hateful, I would look at my driver's face and lower my eyes in shame. And this is a memory I would carry. I recommended very strongly for its banning, etc., to the government, which of course, even to the Congress government, they didn't agree. But
they were distributing it free, the cassette. That's how I picked it up.
And
I have a separate article on Ridha
I read that, and precisely that is why I wanted to speak about. Today, I've been studying hate speech, and one of the things is who are the principal purveyors of hate speech. And women in large numbers are some of the most hateful sort of hate. And they're not, some of them are sadhvis, we have our sadhvi pragya and the likes. But we also have so-called social media influencers. There's some woman called Kajal Hindustani, or something. I mean, the kinds of speeches they are making. So this, some people would say this is evidence of their emancipation. That that they've broken out of the feminine sort of
stereotype
of kindness and care and non-violence, and they are more hateful, more masculine than most men. I just find this whole phenomenon particularly troubling. As somebody, I regard myself to be a feminist, and I don't know how to cope with this, how to understand, how to understand it in the social trajectory of women's advance. I mean, just to give one more example, I have met women in Gujarat after the 2002 violence who actually approved, like glowingly, about their husband raping Muslim women. I mean, your husband has raped Muslim women, and you are sort of you're valuing it. So this phenomenon, I just thought, as a feminist, as one of our sort of very respected feminist thinkers, how do you understand this?
This is a very troublesome question. Some would think it's in a weird way emancipatory.
Yeah.
They may not approve of this way, but they would see it as empowerment. The others would say, but the women are not speaking their own minds. They have been brainwashed. They have been masculinized. But I find that very troublesome.
That is troublesome because you're robbing them of their agency again. You're saying
again, and also you are actually arguing that men have to be essentially aggressive and violent,
yes.
And there's an essential feminine nature which is peace-loving and so on. I don't believe in that distinction.
Absolutely.
And if you believe in that, then you give the show away to the RSS, because then most men are entitled to do what they are doing. But I think it is, why are they doing this? I think it gives them a leadership position, and they are doing it for strategic reasons, because the sadhvis, being sadhvis, their voice carries double the weight any other political leader's words would carry. They also know how to get into the hearts of people. They are discoursing all the time. And the RSS's great achievement is to fuse nationalism, communalism, and Hinduism together. The three most potent sources of energy, they have fused them together. Hyper-nationalism, yes, to fuse them together and to make such a toxic product out of it. And the sadhvis can embody that. But the sadhvis actually are saying the same thing as the priests are saying. I refer to that Al Jazeera documentary. There's a Phalahari sadhu who is shown the devastation, and I'm not exaggerating, they are like minuscule Gaza. And he laughs and he says, but they are like insects, just walk across them. They are not humans. Why are you bothered?
This is the Ahmedabad demolitions, recent Ahmedabad demolitions.
He's saying these are like, you allow them to grow, they'll be like hundreds of Bangladeshis on our soil. Just walk on them. And they make no distinction between Pakistan and Bangladesh. Yeah. Both are the same. After all that Bangladesh had to go through to become Bangladesh. So that is the mobilization of sadhus and sadhvis. They are playing the same role. There is no gender difference here. The fact that sadhvis are women and women are expected to be non-violent, so it shows that what a desperate situation has occurred in India, that even sadhvis have to take up the cause of, Gita's Sri Krishna.
Or Rani Jhansi.
Sort of sending the man into the battle. And she's always appealing to the man. Bhaiyon, Veer Bhaiyon Jago. It is not the woman who has to be aroused. She is a woman, but she is talking to the men. So it is quite a strange phenomenon. It's a very, very dark
troubling. It's a very
phenomenon.
troubling, very dark phenomenon.
Yes.
Uh,
And
be-
it is not that the women are mouthing what the men are saying, because I talk to so many
they have
of
very
them.
deep belief in it. Yes.
Yes, and they have their own enunciations. They speak in different voices, saying the same thing, but they use different similes, metaphors. And for example, one Samiti woman, when I asked her about the rapes, she said, they have raped us so much that it is now our turn to rape. So, in the same sentence, she is the raped woman and the rapist man. So, they have obliterated the gender difference in this
Wow,
kind of,
yeah.
it's like looking through a glass darkly.
Okay. So,
It shows that there is no essential difference. The woman can be as violent.
we can be, yeah, I mean, gender, that's what we're saying. Gender, it's not.
It's constructed.
These are always constructed. And
Gandhi was as gentle as.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I feel that it does reveal that the RSS ideology can construct a woman into somebody who is advocating mass genocide. So that evolution, I think to my mind, if I had, if I try to understand it, it reflects how toxic is the potential of an ideology whose centrality is hate. You don't have any other imagination except hating and othering. This is where it can lead you
But
to.
it gathers strength through two things. One is Hindu ethnocentrism. We have to be always proud. Always. We never did anything wrong. We are the most perfect people. We are the origin of everything.
Yeah.
World civilization.
But it shows very fragile self-confidence, actually.
Yes. And you're always asking for Western endorsement. So they have now got a Western person to write the textbooks. So, but the other thing is that, yes, what do they give to women? The other thing that they bring to women, or what women are now bringing to themselves, is a critique of the discourse of rights. Rights as Western, the woman's right, the subaltern's right, the Adivasi rights, the Dalit rights, these are all implants. We have no need for struggling for rights. So they will celebrate Ambedkar as the writer, author of the Constitution, not for annihilation of caste. They will never mention that. So they are frightened by the discourse of rights, and now decolonialists the scholars have given them a language. Everything has to be decolonized.
Yes.
So they have to decolonize the discourse of rights, the struggle for rights, resistance, revolutionary struggles.
Incidentally, that's so misplaced, because I've learned very, very late that one of the central contributors to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was Hansa Mehta. And so it's not Western.
Nothing.
I mean,
nothing is Western or Eastern in that sense.
It's drawn from the best in human civilization across.
Yes.
And all our civilizations have had great cruelties, but they've also
have all these, and
glorious.
It depends on the historical situation where rights are going to be enunciated.
So one last, I mean, just at a more personal level, I was reading that, talking of Hansa Mehta and Rajkumari Amrit Kaur were the two women members of the drafting committee, of the 10 drafting committee. And they put forward, in the discussion about fundamental rights, they talked about the right of a woman to choose her spouse. And when you look at the whole, what is happening in the so-called honor killings and the so-called love jihad allegations, etc., how far-sighted they were as women. In a sense, giving sexual agency of choice to women, and it was struck down by all the male members of the drafting committee. So just think about that. I was just saying, in the entire 100 years of the engagement of the RSS with women, have they expanded the notion of sexual agency? And in there, there are illusions, and let me sort of complicate the question a little more, because like the Zionists actually have given the LGBTQI community a lot of recognition and rights. You can be a soldier, you can be declared to be gay, and can be a soldier in Israel, etc. Some of the leading leaders of the LGBTQI community in India are very Islamophobic and hateful. So there is, is there a process of granting some sexual agency even to advance the hate project? And it's a complicated one, but I just thought, how would you unravel that?
That is true. They implemented the NALSA recommendations, though they were put forward earlier. Mind you, there were two qualifications. They would still not legalize marriage. Marriage is a sacred institution meant for reproduction, and nothing can touch it. And they would not, they have a good base among the transgenders, but there is also a hierarchy. Obviously, Hindu transgenders are preferred. For some reason, those who identify as women, they are preferred rather than men. Maybe masculinity is something that needs to be guarded a little bit more. But I don't know why they are, a little more permissive about that. One of the things that they
But women are still not granted choice.
No, not men either, because you deny women the choice of love, free love, freedom to select your partner. You also are denying the man. But their argument is this is part of our culture, because the transgenders always had a role in the festivities, in marriage, at childbirth. So it is a part of Hindu culture to be so open, so inclusive, and so on. That is the argument. It is not based on freedom of choice, but our culture has endorsed this.
And I think that both the two, Hansa Mehta and Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, had wanted the women to have the freedom to choose who they want to spend their life with, who they want to love. That I don't think the RSS can ever grant. But even the rest of society is very reluctant to grant.
Very reluctant. And also the woman's and the man's right to love each other. And they will not admit, the RSS will never admit that there can be marital rape. So they will not delegalize it, criminalize marital rape. They will not hear of the curtailment of the husband's right over the wife's body. So in these ways, they're fundamental. I think now, in the last couple of years, after 2024, Modi 03, I think the conservative traits are becoming more pronounced. For the first time, a prime minister would not attend an iftar party, but he would actually put up placards to celebrate women on Karwa Chauth day. Touch your husband's feet, fast the whole day. A war, which to the RSS is the highest sign of patriotism, is called Operation Sindoor.
Yes.
And there was a case made at the High Court, at some High Court, I forget which, that all married women should wear the sindoor.
In support of the war.
War.
Yes. So marriage again becomes
and all the Hindu symbols of marriage become very prominent.
But also,
and the ritualism is
but
just
they also become weaponized to validate war. So the sindoor becoming validating.
But it is again a part of the general culture. So there's such a meshing of the broader cultural norms and RSS recommendations, or VHP recommendations, I should rather say. It's a little alarming. I see the Bengali serials and the sindoor is so prominent, Sindur Khela in Durga Puja or the putting of the sindur, it never used to be that, what shall I say?
In the face.
In the face, I mean, you just pour a whole bowl of sindur on the wife's. That was not, you just put a bit of sindur. It used to be, but.
So it's been a fascinating conversation. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much. It's been fascinating.
I just wanted just the last closing words. We're doing this to reflect on the last 100 years of the RSS. As a feminist historian, how would you evaluate the impact that the RSS has had on our society, particularly on the question of gender justice? The last words.
On all questions of social justice, they have nothing to give. Mm-hmm. At the most, they will not frontally oppose some of the gains that feminist movements have made. They will not oppose the anti-dowry laws or the anti-rape laws, but they might actually give rapists a lot of impunity if they are the right sorts of rapists. Okay?
Like with...
So I would say that all the gains have been made by feminist and liberal movements, not just feminist movements. And I'm also a socialist, not just a feminist. And I think the two come together, on questions of social justice. You can't be a feminist unless you are also committed to social justice in a much larger way.
And a humanist, I think.
And a humanist, yes, of course. And the RSS movement has shown up a lot of limitations in the ways in which we have approached history and the ways in which they have approached history. Their schools are always in the lower middle class areas or even in very disadvantaged areas like Naxalbaris. Yeah. And look at the more liberal, left liberal schools like, and they can be very liberal. They're teaching the right values through the right books, but they are all exorbitantly expensive. And wherever the left governments, I don't know much about Kerala, but in West Bengal, they have had an unbroken stint for 32 years. Look at the left textbooks that they touted, not Ramila Thapar, not Krishna Kumar Niladri Bhattacharya kind of textbooks. They were communal, they were full of mistakes. There's not a word that you can say in their support. Public education was so badly neglected under left rule. They only packed the educational bodies with their own party people and completely neglected.
I think where we're ending up in this discussion is to recognize the extraordinary power, the enormously power destructive of everything that we hold precious and of value through our freedom struggle and in our constitution. The enormous destructive power of an ideology of hate, and particularly for subaltern groups, including women and Dalits and Adivasis. And I think we also have to admit to a very unequal response by secular, socialist, progressive humanist forces. I think, and that's what we have to learn for the years that lie ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Tanika.